Eartheon isn't the only upcoming indie project on the Mega Drive that has us excited. There's also ZPF, developed by a team made up of Mikael Tillander, the creator of the surprising Tanzer, Greaser Reserg, pixel artist and game designer known for Super XYX, and Jamie Vance, the composer. The first trailer for their project dropped a few years ago and was a real shocker, both in terms of visuals and music. So, naturally, when the Kickstarter launched, I didn't hesitate to back it. And now here it is in my hands. Hard to believe, but this is the so-called limited collector's edition. For 150 euros, I got a plastic Mega Drive style box that feels barely better than something off AliExpress, some stickers, and a poster. Wow. There's also a cartridge with an Art Deco look that fits ZPF's universe, but it feels completely out of place alongside the rest. I won't lie, I was expecting a proper collector's box or some kind of packaging to bring everything together, but no. The print and paper quality are decent, but for the price, it really doesn't deliver. Anyway, let's move past the collector's disappointment. What about the game itself? After the title screen, the game gives you access to a fairly complete options menu, letting you fine-tune the difficulty by adjusting the number of lives, medals, and bombs. I quickly realized that ZPF's art direction doesn't win everyone over. Some call it bad taste, others appreciate its originality. What divides people the most is the color palette, which personally reminds me of old-school computer games like Gym Power. The game boldly uses the Mega Drive's 64-color limit, with an ultra-saturated, clashing palette that brings a wide variety of environments to life, blending neon tones, metallic textures, and biomechanical motifs. The sprites, often huge, also call to mind Japanese classics like R-Type, Thunder Force, or Biohazard Battle. But this rich, unconventional visual style not only turns off some players, it also hurts gameplay clarity. Enemy projectiles often get lost in the background due to similar colors. Their shape, size, and color vary so much that it's hard to identify them at a glance. As a result, you'll often lose a life without even understanding what hit you. That said, no one can deny the game's strong and distinctive visual identity. And personally, I'm on board with it. Despite the overwhelming amount of graphical elements on screen, the game usually runs without slowdown. ZPF also stands out thanks to its impressive parallax scrolling, both in terms of layer count and depth. The game also makes use of distortion effects and dynamic color shifts throughout the stages. From a technical perspective, ZPF is far from an amateur effort. That said, the large sprites and bosses, while visually imposing, lack finesse. Too often they feel like giant static cutouts simply laid over the background. More animation, more articulation in their movement would have really brought them to life. The music, composed by Jamie Vance, didn't leave much of an impression on me during the early demos. But I was wrong. It turns out to be excellent. The soundtrack is hard to define because of how varied it is. Sometimes intense and aggressive, sometimes more atmospheric and calm, but almost always fitting the mood of the level. Sound effects, especially the impact of your shots, are punchy and satisfying. They reinforce the sense of power and chaos the game wants to deliver. ZPF uses a 3-button setup, one for your main shot, one for a melee attack, and one for smart bombs. This layout is shared by the 3 ships you can select before each stage. Each ship can power up its regular and melee attacks twice. Knight is a balanced ship piloted by a young sorcerer. It shoots energy blades in a straight line and uses a frontal melee attack enhanced with extra sword slashes. Gold is a cybernetic vessel that fires a destructive spiral laser and a whip-like melee attack that covers several directions, in theory. It's supposedly the most powerful ship when it comes to raw firepower. Supposedly. Gladius is focused on area control. It fires in a wide spread and deploys orbiting metallic projectiles for defense, making it ideal for controlling space around the player. Interestingly, each ship is thematically tied to one of the game's 3 core worlds: fantasy, sci-fi, and alien. Before each level, there's a shop clearly inspired by Lords of Thunder, where you can spend coins to buy upgrades, boost your shots, add a life, buy a continue, double your score, increase coin drops, or, more creatively, cut the number of bullets in the stage by half. This shop is strategically important, especially since there are no continues by default. You'll need to prioritize certain upgrades, like boosting melee or buying extra lives, which quickly requires pushing your coin count above 999. But be careful, Losing a life also means losing money. There's even a high-risk, high-reward scoring mechanic where you can sacrifice most of your coins in exchange for points. It's a gamble, but it might pay off if you're going for leaderboard glory. ZPF doesn't try to reinvent the genre. Its attack system is quite minimal. Each ship has a single primary shot and a melee attack, and that's about it. The ships aren't all created equal either. The melee system, while interesting in concept, is underused and ineffective in practice. Aside from Knight, the other ships' melee attacks are mostly useless. The game lets you choose which of the 3 core worlds to tackle first. After completing a stage, a new one unlocks, but here's the catch. If you want to face the true final boss, you'll need to complete them in the correct order, from left to right. Much like the gameplay, the level design is pretty basic in structure, with a few moments of inspiration, such as poles suddenly rising from the ground, or ambush ships appearing unexpectedly. The rest feels flat, with short gameplay sections and enemy waves that repeat the same patterns too often. Where are the traps, the environmental hazards? It really lacks depth and variety. Thankfully, the pacing is solid, with lots of mid-boss encounters, some of which can be genuinely challenging. And the game also includes an entire bonus stage, something that's far too rare these days. The bosses are probably ZPF's biggest letdown. While their designs and patterns are impressive at first glance, they're not well executed. Most of them can be taken out with just 1 or 2 smart bombs. Even worse, with Knight's fully powered melee attack, some of them go down in seconds. It's a shame because their designs are striking. They look like massive mechanical titans, but they collapse like paper giants. That said, not all of them are pushovers. Some, like the one in the Contra-inspired level or the tricky final boss, require a more careful approach. ZPF isn't as easy as it looks. With only 2 lives to start and no continues by default, the challenge kicks in fast. You'll need to choose your upgrades wisely and collect as many coins as possible to avoid running out of resources mid-run. As mentioned earlier, stage order and ship selection matter if you want to reach the true final boss. And if you're aiming for 100% completion, you'll also need to find hidden keys in certain levels. But here's the catch. They only appear if you haven't lost a life before reaching them. That said, the lack of a real arsenal and the limited synergy between ships hurts the game's long-term replayability. It's a shame there's no proper difficulty setting with evolving bullet patterns or enemy behaviors to spice things up. Still, the game is fun enough to make you want to come back, at least a few times. It might not come through clearly in this review, but I genuinely enjoy ZPF. I immediately connected with its bold and unorthodox art direction, its inspired soundtrack, and its simple, addictive gameplay. It clicked with me right away. The atmosphere, the responsiveness, the pure arcade energy. Honestly, it's exactly what I expected. Not very subtle, even a bit crude, but undeniably fun. That said, I have to admit that my opinion won't apply to everyone. ZPF is far from perfect. Its visuals will definitely divide players. And let's be honest, if you don't vibe with the game's aesthetic, you'll miss out on much of what makes it appealing. Its gameplay, while effective, is also pretty shallow. 3 basic shots, ships with little depth, and not enough content to keep players coming back long-term. Putting the art aside, I'd say ZPF offers a smooth and satisfying arcade experience, but one that doesn't dig very deep. Is up to you.